Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dadlit Pod.
Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for those who remember when TB patients were just called lungers. Tonight, I'm joined. I just came up with that off the fly, Scott. Scott McCrea is here with me. I'm Dan Roberts, as always. Like many of us, he was born at a very early age. He's grown progressively older since. And now he's a podcaster and he displays his desiccated carcass as a warning to presumptuous writers. That's fair. That's nice of you. He's written a
That is
few
me.
books before fast living and free thinking overwhelmed him completely. Children like him, but angels weep for him. Scott is also the author of some 40 books, including westerns, thrillers, comedies, and YA novels. His new western, Flint's Honor, which I read, has been on several Amazon bestseller lists, and his thriller, Target's West, will be released later this year. He is a Western writer of America and a Western Writer of America Spur finalist
That is
and
me.
a Western Fictioneer Peacemaker nominee. Well,
That is me.
congratulations on those. He's currently working on a biography of Buffalo Bill Cody called Buffalo Bill Cody, The Old Glory Blowout and the Creation of the Wild West. Scott, thank you for coming on the Dadlit Pod.
I sound I'm exhausted just listening to it. I did all that, and it's only Tuesday. It's amazing.
Congratulations. Congratulations on all that hard work you accomplished earlier this week.
Thank you. Now when you were growing up, did they call you Daniel, Dan, or Danny?
Oh, Jesus. They call me everything. My oldest friends call me Danny.
Okay.
People I know from high school call me Block Party.
Block party. Okay.
Yes, call me Block Party, or they call me Danny.
Okay.
People I met in college call me Dan, and no one calls me Daniel. Even my own father once said, when I said, well, actually, my first name is Daniel, he said, no, it's not. It's Danny. And I said, no, it's Daniel. That's what's on the birth certificate and all my identifications. He's like, no, it's not. Went and got my birth certificate. Lo and behold, I know my own name. I
Well,
scored, I scored that particular amount that you get on the SATs for writing your name correctly. I
I
got
will
that
call you
right.
Murray.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And
So
now,
Murray. Yes.
yes. And now if I ever sell a book, I'm going to go by DG.
Oh
So,
wow.
yes.
So you'll be like DG Roberts.
Yeah, DG Roberts.
Yeah,
If
I'm
I
always
ever sell a
suspicious of
book.
people who do that. Like D.D. Denham or F. Lee Bailey or
Yeah.
yeah, because I always figure like, what are they hiding?
For me, it is I have a professional life that's
Uh-huh.
attached to my name that is like a historian because I've written books under that name and articles and that sort of thing. And then there's going to be my fiction work. And I don't really think that my fiction work and my nonfiction work, I want them kicking around together.
In the same life.
Yeah,
I've had
yeah.
the same experience with books I've written that under different names because
Yes, yeah. And to that extent my agent agreed with me. She was like, "Yeah, that's fine." Plus she said that there are other Daniel Robertses and they don't sell a lot of books, so there's no advantage to being mistaken for
no,
them.
how did you end up a historian?
I've always wanted to be a historian. I've talked about it a lot on the show, but I grew up in a house with in a Jewish household with a very vibrant and intensive respect and regard for historical knowledge. That historical knowledge and an understanding of historical knowledge makes for a an educated and sensible man. Almost, I imagine what was once in the American tradition, what knowing Greek was, or knowing Latin, or I think subsequently in the era you write about, knowing French.
Hmm.
French would be
That was the lingua franca
the
of any educated person.
yes, of any educated person in the 19th century. So to that extent, it just went with it. And I've been a historian since I graduated. Worked all over the world, um, foreign countries, the United States, and now I live in Washington, D.C. area, and I do merchant marine history and naval history.
Wow.
So
Now, of all the
that's
places
where
you've
I'm
been,
at.
what was your favorite?
Of all the places I've lived or all the places I've visited?
Well, let's do both.
I think probably of all the places that I've lived that I just really liked is probably Baltimore. I love
Wow.
Baltimore. I
Okay.
love Baltimore. I like my cities a little run down. I don't think I've ever lived in like a really nice city. I suppose other than Baltimore, it'd be my hometown of South Portland, Maine. I love my hometown. In terms of places that I visited, probably South Africa. South Africa is a beautiful place, uh, uh, staggering in its dynamic sort of geology. It looks like Montana, is how
Hmm.
people have described it, but I've never been to Montana as of yet. And you go down from being up on what is effectively like a high plains into KwaZulu-Natal towards the ocean. And you go into these low-lying areas, and it's just spectacular. It's beautiful. Also insanely dangerous. And I made the rather bold decision of renting a car and thinking that it was a good idea for me to just drive. I was like, hey, they've got roads. I'll
I could
just
do this.
drive.
How hard is it?
I'll
Yeah.
just drive. And everyone was like, don't stop. Don't stop. You go straight through. You don't go anywhere. And I'm like, okay. I thought I was going to go on like a Western road trip. So,
My
yes,
favorite place. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
what's yours? Give me
The
yours.
favorite place that I lived was a very small town in Texas.
Yes.
It was so small they had the whole town carpeted. I mean, it was really tiny.
Hmm.
My family moved in, population doubled. It was called Copper's Cove. It was
Hmm.
like right in the middle of Texas. My dad was an architectural engineer. So, an architectural engineer is the architect draws the drawings of the house, and then they give it to the engineer, and he says, "No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Where do you put the gas? Where do you put?" And there was a lot of building going on in a place called Killeen, which was a nearby city,
Hmm.
and he had to move there for a year, and he wasn't going to leave us in New York. So we all went and lived in Texas for a year, and I loved it because I was a New York City kid,
Hmm.
and the whole idea of being able to go to the pool on Christmas Eve was like great. It's
Hmm.
like Christmas Eve, and it's 75 degrees. Of all the places I've been, bar none, Burma. I, I,
Really?
I just loved Burma. Just saying it, I want to go back. It was the most exotic trip I'd ever taken. It
Hmm.
was the longest trip I'd ever taken. It was the most interesting in that we were followed by a secret police for the whole thing. I mean, you could just tell. No, it's true. Because
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
sounds about right.
no matter where we went, and we hired a tour guide to be with us for the
Hmm.
whole thing. And just as we were, we would say things and he'd write them down, and we're like, we know that all of this is going to the secret police. Sadly, nothing. We're the least interesting people in the entire world. But I just love Burma, and wanting to go is like it's quintessential me. We're lying around one day, and my better half says, it's time for us to take a really nice trip. Where do you want to go? I said, I want to go to Burma. And he said, well, sure, okay. And the next thing you know, we buy tickets and we have the whole thing planned out. And apropos of nothing, he turns to me and says, why do you want to go to Burma? And I said, well, when I was a kid, I
Mhm.
read The Insidious Dr. Fu Manchu. And it opens up where Nayland Smith recovers and he says, I've been lying in a Burmese jungle where I was after I was bitten by a poisonous centipede and I cured it with a burnt cartridge and I just ever since then I said I wanted to go to Burma. And he said we spent a fortune on this thing because you
Yeah.
read a Fu Manchu book when you were a kid. I'm like, well, why else would you go? We were in
Exactly.
Paris once. We were in Paris once. We went. I wanted to go to the Paris Opera House, so I could stand outside Box Five, which was the Phantom of the Opera's box,
Yeah.
and we were going to take a tour of the Paris Opera House. And it turned out that it was actually cheaper for us to get nosebleed tickets for the opera that night than it would be to take the tour. So we
Hmm.
got the tickets, we saw the opera, and then me being me, we ran all over the opera looking for the Phantom of the Opera places. Because if you read Gaston Leroux's novel, which I read when I was a little kid, it's very detailed about the opera house and where things are happening and where the Phantom was, and that there are five subcellars and blah 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 blah
Hmm.
blah. And when it was over, he said, where would you like to go? I said, let's go get a drink. There's a little bar outside of Notre Dame. So we went to Notre Dame, and he said, all right, so now why are we having a drink at Notre Dame? I said, well, because the Hunchback of Notre Dame takes place right there. And he said, this whole thing is just like a monster tour for you. I said, sure. Why else
Basically.
would you travel?
You see, I did something very similar. My wife used to work in AIDS research. And so
How
she
many
would
years you been
have,
married?
I've been married 2017, 8 years now.
Just a newbie. But go ahead. So there
I
she
know.
is
I'm
in
working on
research.
it. I'm working on it. She does AIDS research, and so she used to get to go to South Africa once a year for 3 weeks, and she'd disappear for 3 weeks because she'd stay the middle week because it's insane to fly 24 hours back. And so she'd be gone that whole time. So and she used to go to Uganda a lot. She used to go to Nigeria a lot. And of course that's been very helpful to me because I wrote a thriller and part of the thriller is set in Nigeria and I'm working on the sequel. Part of the sequel set in Nigeria. But I always wanted to see Rourke's Drift, where Zulu, the
Yeah.
story from Zulu, took place. I did always wanted to see it. It's
One of the great historical movies,
one
too,
of the
by the way.
great historical movies, one of the great, sort of stories of, the defense of the hospital. And I'd read The Washing of the Spears, which is a mid 20th century history of the Zulu Wars, which is, it was written back when you could have a little linguistic flourish and be I'll just say that you could just be kind of a racist
Mhm.
about things.
Well,
And
no, what you
well, it
meant is
was
that you can
just
look at things from a Western perspective, which is
yes, yeah,
different. I mean,
yes, precisely, yeah.
it's a very different.
Yeah, so to that extent, and the bulk of the book is as comprehensive a history of the Zulu Empire under Chisweo and Shaka Zulu as existed, because of course they didn't write anything down.
Mhm.
There was no written history at that point in Zulu. And of course, the washing of the spears refers to this very bizarre tradition that the Zulu had established under Shaka Zulu, which is part of sort of his totalitarian state, which was that a young Zulu warrior could not get married until they washed their spears in blood, in enemy blood. And they would do these mass marital ceremonies where They just put a woman in front of you, and the, you know, Chisweho or Shagazulu or whoever was the chief would oversee this mass marriage ceremony, and that was it. And then subsequently you could accumulate brides, as it were, because it was a polygamist society.
So now, if you had a fight with your fiance and killed her, would that count?
Ah, well, you don't. You
It's just a
only
question.
you didn't really have a fiance. You would just sort of meet the woman. Like the ladies would show up.
No, no, no.
You'd be
I'm just
older.
teasing. Yes.
You'd be yeah. The interesting thing is, of course, he kept all these young men from getting married for longer than they would have liked, and it was sort of a way of of cementing power and of sort of offering within what was effectively not a polyamorous society, but a polygamous
Polygamous.
society of securing political power. And so it's very super interesting, and it was great to go there. And they have the whole hospital, and everything associated with the hospital is still drawn out. And then you go across the river, across the drift that Rourke's Drift is named for, and you go into what was then Zulu country, and you get to see where the Battle of Isla took place.
Wow. Now, is Zulu your favorite historical movie?
Uh, I think the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is probably my favorite historical movie,
Interesting choice.
which is a recent one,
Yeah.
obviously. I love that movie. It's so good.
I don't know if
Um,
you've ever seen Khartoum with
I
Charlton
have
Heston as
with
Chinese.
Charlton Heston.
Nobody remembers this movie. It's absolutely one of my favorite
It
movies in the
is.
world. I could
Uh,
just sit there and watch it endlessly. No,
I
particularly, I mean, Olivier is the Marty. He goes, "Oh, my beloved." And it's like, oh, God, this is great. It's just
uh,
great. And if you look at pictures of Chinese Gordon, Heston looks so much like him. It's almost uncanny.
Yes. So I also am a Gordon obsessive.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
yes, I am.
Oh,
I
get
am
in
me
line.
and
I'm a huge fan of Gordon and Burton.
yes, yeah. And I my friend Alex Marriott, who also writes mystery novels and has been on the pod a couple times, he and I are rather obsessed with Kitchener's Revenge after Khartoum, and we wanted to get T-shirts that said, you know, my friend went to Khartoum with Kitchener, and all he got was this
Was a
lousy
T-shirt.
Mahdi
It's
skull, because of course, because of course, Kitchener took the bones
yeah.
and sent the skull to Queen Victoria
Well, so, but I
in
mean,
revenge.
Kitchener and Gladstone, for that matter, were
Yes,
painted into a corner by Gordon because,
yes,
I mean, Gordon far exceeded his orders,
yes.
and then you're the most famous person in the kingdom, and you're butchered by the Mahdi.
Oh yeah,
Of course, the powers that be are going to have to respond in some way. So they were kind of stuck.
yes.
Gordon was a fascinating creature.
Yes, very fascinating moment. And of course, has produced some great literature. We've talked about Four Feathers,
Hmm.
which is also was made into a movie,
A couple of times.
but is an interesting book.
Yeah. Oh,
And
and the Flashman novels.
I've never read the Flashman novels.
Oh, Daniel, you're in for a treat. They are the finest historical novels ever written.
Oh, great.
Not only is the historicity in them flawless and the
Hmm.
representations of real people exact, they're also the funniest books in the whole world. And they're also and they're
Great.
also surprisingly filthy. You will love them. They're funny, dirty books about history. They're
Terrific.
the best books in the whole world.
So if you go, and I've been, if you go to Windsor Castle today, you can see Gordon's Bible that he sent to Queen Victoria. It's on display. And I was there with my dad and my little brother, and I was like, oh, that's Gordon's Bible. And then they're like, what are you talking about? Why is that a big deal to you? That's really weird. And I'm like, no, that's Gordon's Bible. He sent that from Khartoum.
Yeah, I would find it weird not to be
Yes, not to
awed
be
by Gordon's
excited.
Bible. It's definitely Bible.
So, yeah, so you are a dad-lit author.
Yes, I am.
You were telling me before that you have the experience quite often that your books are purchased, as all books are, by women, and who say, "My dad liked your book."
My dad liked it. So in March, I had
Yes.
a book published by Down and Out, a thriller,
Yeah.
the first of a series called Targets West,
Mhm.
about a millionaire rancher named Lucas Wheeler in Wyoming who's selling
Mhm.
some Arabians to a sheikh in the Middle East. And the State Department comes to him and says, "We think something is going on. We want you to just keep your eyes and ears open."
Mhm.
And of course, poor Lucas Wheeler ends up from Wyoming and New York, and then to New York, and then London, and then Dubai, and then back to London. And there's this huge international plot. And I tell people it's North by Northwest with John Wayne because
Mhm.
it's that exact that poor innocent man involved in a spy plot, and it was doing really well. And I heard last month that my publisher Down and Out was going out of business. So from
Oh
Down and Out to
no.
Dead and Buried. And I like to think that there's no connection between them publishing my book and going out of business. But right now, the only people making money on Targets West are my therapists. But but fortunately, the publisher of my westerns, DSP, said, "Well, I'm glad they're out of business because I wanted to buy Targets
Yes.
West." So they actually not only bought it, but they've committed to the whole series. So we're doing a
Oh,
whole
that's
series
terrific.
about Lucas Wheeler. But to answer your question, I did a lot of book signings and appearances for Targets West, and you know the mystery genre is very wide, and
Mhm.
everything sort of falls under the rubric of mysteries. So thrillers are mysteries, and
Mhm.
Murder She Wrote is a mystery, and Columbo is a mystery, and all of these things operate under sort of different rules and different universes. But the great unifying factor is that women buy all of them.
Yes, they do.
And so I had a lot of women come to me, at book sales, and I'm buying this book, and they would come back to me later because I would give everybody a bookmark with my email on it,
Mhm.
and they would say, my dad loved this book. No one ever
Mhm.
said I loved this book, oddly enough. They said my dad loved this book, and there was a bookstore in Pennsylvania that did virtual signings, and what they did once is that they were doing a reading.
Yeah.
Their book club was going to read Targets West, and then they would talk about it for a half hour, and then for the second half hour, I would get on the call and chat with them about it. And so I'm waiting. I get on the call, and it's a bunch of very unhappy looking women. And then I said, "Yeah, so I'm sitting there and I'm doing my best to be effervescent, and then finally I say, so like, what's the problem?" And they all said, "I don't like this. My dad would like this book." My and one of them actually said, "There are no nice women in this book." I said, "It's a thriller. I mean, there are no nice people in it other than the hero. It's the whole point of a thriller." And another one said, "I don't understand it. I mean, like, so why were the terrorists trying to kill the president?" And I'm like, "Well,
I mean,
terrorists
they're
usually do one or
always.
two things, and kill the president is one of them." And it was just so. But the amazing thing is, for my Western series, according to my publisher's research, like 47% of those are read by women. So women
Mhm.
love Westerns. Thrillers, not so much, but they do love
What's
Westerns.
what's DSP?
DSP is Dusty Saddles Productions.
Okay.
That's one of my. I published books with many publishers, and my Western series are by DSP.
Mhm. And so how many Western books you've been prolific?
I have been prolific. I think
How
I've
many Westerns have you
written
have you put out now?
37, give or take. Yeah, 37.
That's a lot of Westerns.
It is a lot of.
And are
I
they
love
all
Westerns.
about Flint?
No.
Yes.
So
What is it?
I started writing westerns. My first series was about Tom Mix, the famous. Are you still there? I seem to have lost you for a moment.
Mhm.
Oh, there you are. Um,
No, no, it just stuck.
okay. My
Yeah, I'm
first
here.
series was about there you are. Was about Tom Mix. Um, uh, because Tom Mix was a real life Westerner before he was a movie star in the 1920s,
Hmm.
and I thought I that would be terrific because I'd be able to do while Tom was a marshal, and then when he was a movie star, and then when he was a member of the Rough Riders under Teddy Roosevelt, and I did eight of
Hmm.
those, and I liked them a lot. One of those actually won or was nominated. No, actually, one of them was a finalist for Western Writers of America Spur Award. But you know, they had a limited readership. And then my publisher said, "Well, why don't you try another character?" And I had written a couple of books, mountain men books, because I always wanted to be a mountain man
Hmm.
myself. Because I'm the kind of guy who has trouble making a salad. So the whole idea of living in the woods all by myself is kind of formidable.
Yeah, just
So
eating nothing but sinewy meat.
yes, so I set myself that challenge, and then I was trying to figure out what kind of Westerner would I want to read about, and so I created this character, Marshall Ezra Flint, and the one out now, Flint's Honor, is the eighth of them, and it's probably my best-selling book so far. So I'm
Oh,
delighted.
well, congratulations. That's
Yeah,
terrific.
Marshall Ezra
So
Flint is a
do you think you've accrued or bought with your with all of your books a happy and anxious fan base that want more McCrae's?
Yeah, fortunately, yes. And I'm
Hmm.
delighted by that. In fact, I just got I was on Twitter today, or X, whatever it's called, and one
Hmm.
of my readers said, they've changed the size of your books. And he didn't mean that, no, he didn't mean the
The
page
font?
count. No, he meant the overall. So, the early Flints were roughly the size of pulp novels, which
Yeah.
would be, 7.5 by 10, something like that. But now
Mhm.
they're the same sort of trade paperback size, and I'm just talking about the cut of the book, not the word count.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to know why, and that somebody cared. Just delighted me. And I asked my publisher why, and he said, "Well, because we're just being more consistent with trade paperback size."
Mhm.
But yeah, I get emails from strangers all the time saying, "Where's the next Flint? I want it now. I want it now." I'm actually working on another one, so
Well,
it's
that's
funny
great.
because the one I wanted to do, my publisher said no.
What what did you want to do that you
Well,
got
so
turned down?
So every month, or so, I will send my publisher. Well, I'm thinking of another Flint. It'll be this, this, this. And I wanted to write Flint's mother,
Hmm.
and and so for those who have read them, Flint is this very austere, sort of flinty character, oddly
Yeah.
enough, who's sort of dry and reads Marcus Aurelius. I have somebody said he's like Mr. Spock and Charles Bronson put together, and he kind of is, I suppose. And the whole idea of Flint's mother is that Flint's mother comes to town and says, "And for this, I sent you to college. Meet a girl, just settle down. But with the guns, you drive me crazy. But shoot him already. What are you crazy?" And
So basically just the plot to stop her my mom will shoot.
yes, exactly. And my publisher says, "Sure, you'll kill the series and nobody will ever read them again, but knock yourself out." And that was enough to talk me out of it,
Yeah.
actually.
Flint.
A doctor, you couldn't have been a doctor. You have to be a marshal.
I actually like that a lot. I think
I
that would
love it.
be, yes, I have an idea for a Jewish mother thriller where she is constantly killing or maiming the people who stand in her children's way of
Oh,
happiness. So sort of like a serial mom, like
serial
a
mom. I
John
was just
Waters
thinking that.
serial mom,
Yep.
but less aesthetic and more, Jewish
Ah,
and more, yes, and more like, I Oi, this girl, and then
I
oh,
think it's an idea.
my son lost out on the what do you call it? He's got to be a doctor. He did get the surgical residency. Maybe I'd make a little something happen, and then he gets it.
I think it's for the Flints they all tend to be well, the tenor of them is like the old Gunsmoke show. It's
Yeah.
kind of grim and sort of fatalistic. And I honestly, to my surprise, I'm shocked that they sold so much better than the Tom Mix books, because Tom Mix books were very diverse. Some were adventures and some were grim and some were, and one was an out and out comedy. My favorite book that I've written was a Tom Mix book. It's called Hog Wild, where Tom is completely fed up with being a marshal and he goes into the mountains where he's kidnapped by this fat mountain girl named I'm a Hog, who writes who writes bad poetry and like dots her eyes with little hearts. And he gets involved in this sort of Romeo and Juliet thing, with hillbillies in the mountains. And one of his deputies has to, ends up in drag and rescues him. And it was like it's and I'm
I
sitting there
like it.
typing, yeah, I'm sitting there, writing this, chuckling to myself. I'm like, this is it. This is the book that's going to make Scott McCrea. And it sank. Actually, you could have actually tied that book around my neck and thrown it into a river, because that was almost the end of the Tom Mix series. And
That
I'm like, I would think that if you're writing
yes,
series fiction, you want to mix it up,
yeah,
But actually, the great secret, and I learned this, both happily and to my peril. The great secret of series fiction is that it's got to be the mixture, as Somerset Maugham said about his books. It's the mixture as before. It's got to be the mixture as before with a
yes,
slight variation.
yeah. The books that I've worked on, or the manuscripts that I've written that I think could be serialized, I always try and analyze what specifically it is about them that should remain consistent. Whether it be, I have um, a book that I'm trying to sell, which is a detective story set in Florida with an ex police chief. And the idea is that he's a police chief, but he no longer has power and no one respects him. And so fundamentally, he part of his arc wherever he goes is to be sort of laid out, and he has to earn respect. And in addition to this, he's sort of a landed person. He's from Chicago, so I
Hmm.
like the idea of having him in seaside places or on boats. And so I want everything to sort of. I have him, he at a marina, and so in all the future concepts, I always have to have him be involved with some sort of boating thing. And the idea is just to sort of do the fish out of water, do the starts with no respect, thinks he thinks he should, get it because he's an angry police chief character, and then fundamentally at the end earns it by
Hmm.
solving the case. And so to me, I sat down and I said, well, what, in the future, if I map this out, what needs to stay consistent? What about this is particular? And what makes it different or original? And I think that works with most serialized novels.
Yeah, so people read serialized novels or serial fiction for the same reason they visit friends.
Yeah,
You find someone you like for
yeah,
whatever reason, or you find a milieu you like, and you visit it, and you don't
yeah.
want it to be too different because those are the people you like. And also, serial fiction to a large degree is comfort reading,
Hmm.
which I understand entirely. And I'm shocked at people who don't. I'll never forget. I was reading an essay by Michael Chabon. If you're who wrote The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, a
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
book. Probably his only really good
Um,
book.
um, yeah. I think he also wrote the Sitka Yiddish Policeman
Yeah,
Society.
Secret.
Or
Yes.
yes.
Oh, but he wrote an essay once, and he said, "I don't understand serial fiction. Why would I want to read James Bond's third most important case?" Um, and I'm like, well, and I'm like, well, you're missing the point
Yes.
entirely. The point is, you want to visit him, you want to visit M, you want to be in M's office, you want to travel with him, you want to get liquored up with him. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And you know, Flint, even though he has a very stony exterior, um, he's also very approachable and very warm.
Hmm.
Um, Under a sort of frosty exterior. Whenever I write him, I think Benedict Cumberbatch, because he can be
Hmm.
very icy on the outside, but there's sort of this gooey center. And people respond to that. And then also good westerns are always morality tales. I have a very good
Hmm.
friend who said, "How do you write so many westerns?" I said, "It's easy. I look for an Old Testament story and I put a horse in it."
Yeah.
Because they really have a sort of biblical simplicity.
Hmm.
And I've been I so you know I've been so lucky in my readership. You had asked before about the people who read them. I have fortunately dedicated readers who reach out to me all the time, and they're terrific. And they respond to the books and they like them and they want to know what's going on next. And
Hmm.
that's if you had asked me when I wanted to be a writer back when I was in second grade, I would say I wanted to be a writer so people read me. And I've actually gotten to the point in my life where people read me, and it's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, that must be this is whenever I talk to male writers, it's always about being read. There's not really a desire to become Stephen King level wealthy and famous.
Well, I wouldn't
It's
object.
it
I mean,
wouldn't object. No one would object to it. But to that extent, um, being read and having people enjoy it, it's why I do it as well. Whenever I write a book, I always write it for somebody. I
Mhm.
always pick someone in my family or a friend, and I say, look, I want to write this book for them. And some of the times it's to entertain them. Other times it's to express something, right? To express something that I'm feeling that I want them to understand.
Mhm.
And that inspires me to write books as well. Yeah, to put that together. And and if other people enjoy them or get the chance to enjoy them, that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Well,
that's what
we
it's all
all write
about.
books for different reasons. Like, some people write books because they want to change the world,
Yeah.
or some people want to write books because they are artists, and
Hmm.
more power to them. And I've always wanted to be a writer because I see writing as entertaining.
Hmm.
I want to entertain people the way actors would entertain people, or
Hmm.
dancers, or singers, or comedians, or circus clowns. For me, the art of fiction is the art of entertaining the reader,
Hmm.
and I just want people to read my books and be happy that they read them.
Hmm.
Whether they're thrillers or whatever, and not that they're necessarily happy books, but I want them to put them down and say, I am profoundly satisfied by this experience because it's exactly what I wanted and exactly what I needed.
Hmm.
And I'm part of a tradition. I'm part of a tradition, Daniel, of
Congratulations.
of writers who you know are escape artists because
Hmm.
I write to help people find escape.
Yeah.
I'm escapist literature, and I actually find escapist literature to be a surprisingly noble calling that goes back to not only goes back to Conan Doyle, but hell, it goes back to Poe and it goes back to Homer. So yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
also the
mean,
great thing about writing westerns, and as a historian for you, I'm sure you feel this too, is that when you write westerns, you really, really are part of a great tradition. And
mhm.
I like to think that every Flint book, every Tom Mix book, is like a brick in this great wall
Mhm.
that has been under construction since Owen Wister, and it's a great tradition to be part of, and it's
Mhm.
surprisingly um, coherent in the sense that it's all thematically similar, unlike say crime fiction or poetry or epic verse or fantasy or science fiction, which can be
Mhm.
very diverse. And I find often that the restrictions that are placed on you as a Western writer, instead of being restrictive, are actually surprisingly liberating because you have to.
Yeah.
So
Well, you come in with the confidence that people understand the setting.
yes, yes. But then also, I mean, like I was, so Gary, somebody once asked Gary Cooper, why do you do so many Westerns? He said, I do them because they're honest.
Yeah.
And there's an honesty to Westerns that you don't have in other genres.
Mhm.
That's why actually, so Target's West, I wanted to write a thriller, and I love thrillers. And, I grew up reading Fu Manchu and things like that. And I wanted to, and of course, Ian Fleming. And I wanted to write a thriller that felt as honest as a Western. And that's why I
Mhm.
wrote a thriller with a cowboy hero, even though it's a contemporary thriller. It's like, well, how do I make this honest? Well, I put a Westerner in the middle, and bingo,
Yeah.
it becomes much more honest.
Yeah, that's I've got an idea. I have a couple ideas for Westerns. One is just a historical fiction idea, but the other would I've always had this sort of fun idea to do a Western that's an Eastern, where with the Russian Revolution, to basically just drop a cowboy in the middle of the
In the
Russian
Russian Revolution,
Revolution. I always think that that would be really fun. And they, if only for the mass confusion.
it would
Uh,
be a lot of confusion.
both his and everybody else's.
And he would speak French.
No, I think he would pretty much be he would be uh, completely bereft
Ah,
of the ability to do much of anything uh, from a communication standpoint.
mhm.
So, but I think it would be interesting to drop a cowboy, an aged cowboy, in the middle
In the
of the
Russian
Russian
Revolution.
Revolution.
I
Yes,
like it. I like it.
it's he ran out of frontier. He ran out of frontier. That was it.
I got a title, Saddle Up to Siberia.
Saddle up to Siberia. He's running caribou over to Alaska, and then he gets lost.
No Westerner could get that lost. I mean,
Yeah.
that's very lost indeed.
So, other than that, what are your other projects? You've got this nonfiction project that you're writing.
Yes. So I'm writing a 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the country. And so I have two projects
Hmm.
going on there. First off, when I say my major publisher, Nick Whale, who's the president and editor at DSP, is my
Hmm.
major publisher because he publishes most of my books. And we were chatting one day a couple of months ago, and we both realized that no major publishing house, was doing anything at all for the 250th anniversary of America, which kind of
Hmm.
shocked the both of us when we
That's
thought
that's
about it.
pretty shocking.
So, like on the spot, we came up with this idea, which we are calling America 250, and 12 of the top writers at DSP once a month for 2026 will be putting out a book that I'll be editing and writing an introduction for that features historical figures from the American West. So there's a
Oh,
book on
great.
Custer, for example, and there's a book on John Fremont, and there's a book on, we're even doing the villains, of course. We're doing a book with Billy the Kid, and we're doing a book on Doc Holliday, and we're doing a book on Tom Horn. And, it's guys like Jeff Marriott and Lane Warinsky and Casey Nash and Alfred Wallen and yours truly, and a whole bunch of other good people who I'm forgetting now, and they're going to call me up tomorrow and say they hate me. So we'll be doing one book a month on that so that's part of what I'm doing in 2026. But then also for another publisher, the South Dakota Historical Society, I'm actually writing a biography of Buffalo Bill Cody, and who's a very important historical figure to me
Mhm.
because he really is the guy who invented the Wild West. So he was a real life Westerner. He was a Pony Express writer. He was a buffalo
Indian
hunter,
Scout.
Indian scout. He was a scout for the military, and then of course, somehow he managed to turn his the entire pageant of his life
Mhm.
into theater, and a lot of the tropes that we think of when we think of the Wild West came out of the Buffalo Bill Cody Wild West show. And we're still both in fiction and in film and on television, recreating some of the stuff that he had done originally. And I was thinking about, how did all of that come about? And while he was on Broadway, believe it or not, in a play called Scouts of the Plains, he was thinking about doing some outdoor theater of some kind. And for the 4th of July, he's in North Plate, and it's right before the 4th of July, and he's with some friends who are town fathers, and he finds out, this is, by the way, history. This is what the
Mhm.
biography is about. He finds out that they're not doing anything, so Bill is on his way to the saloon, which is where he got most of his really good ideas, in my dad. So
I
Bill
mean,
is on
so
his way to
that's the
the
same with
saloon,
me.
and he says to himself, well, this is wrong. Let's just do something. So he created the Wild West blowout of North Plate. And that was the genesis of what became the Wild West show. It was sort of like a trial run, both mentally and physically. And when he saw the response to it, that's what helped him, create and conceptualize the Wild West show. And I was talking to the woman at the editor, rather, at South Dakota Historical Society, and I said, "There is no biography that approaches Buffalo Bill from this sense of, or that moment of, here we are on the 4th of July,
Mhm.
that saw the birth of the Wild West show, which actually also saw the birth of the American Western." And she said, "Well, it's 2026. Maybe you should do it for that." I'm like, sold. And that's how I ended up doing this book. And
Well,
I'm really
terrific.
excited about it. Yeah.
That's gonna be a fun one.
Yes, that'll
And
come out in
and
July of
and I
2026.
suppose you've been to Lookout Mountain.
I have been to Lookout Mountain, and kitschy and awful as it sounds, and shed a silent tear for Bill.
It's so lovely.
It is so lovely. Do you know the story of that, though? So he wanted to be buried in Cody, Wyoming.
Mhm.
And at that time, the Denver Post was owned by two guys named Tannen and Bonfils. And they were subsidizing Cody's show, and he was in debt to them. And his wife, who was a wretched woman, Cody's wife was a truly wretched woman, after he died, sold his corpse to them so they can plant him in Lookout Mountain and make it a tourist attraction. So even after death, Cody is a tourist attraction.
I think he would have been okay with it.
Um, no, I mean, 'cause my voice went up an octave. Let's do that one more time.
Yeah.
Well, no, no, I honestly think he would have been happier in Cody,
Oh,
because it's
okay.
it's his namesake, and it's also the town that he had the most to do with. I mean,
Yeah.
that town is on the map because of him. But Lookout Mountain is a gorgeous place,
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
it is certainly. I could not think of, including Monument Valley. I could not think of a more picturesque,
Mm.
Western landscape than Lookout Mountain. It's just fabulous.
Yes. For those who don't know, Lookout Mountain is about
It's in Golden, Colorado,
Golden, Colorado. It's about 40 minutes outside
from
of
Denver. Yeah,
Denver. And if you turn east, you can see Denver and
hmm
Golden and the Coors Brewing and the Mesa, that beautiful Mesa that's there. And then if you turn south, you can see the Red Rocks
yeah.
coming out. And then, of course, if you turn north or west, it's the Rocky Mountains, and it's a pretty spectacular
Oh,
spot.
it's spectacular.
I've
Yeah.
I've been there a bunch of times now because I like to bring people there when I go to Denver,
You know,
because of how
I've
pretty it
done a
is.
lot of research on the West, writing all of these books, and so I learned a lot about, you know, really diverse figures, everyone from, Wyatt Earp to Billy the Kid to Jesse James to Tom Horn. The
Hmm.
only one of them I wanted to call my friend, seriously, was Buffalo Bill, because he was
Hmm.
just a great guy. He was
Hmm.
just he was perpetually broke because he was an easy touch. Like
Hmm.
old parts were coming out of, the woodwork when he made it big. Hey, can you let me have this? Can you let me have that? Man was perpetually in debt because he was just, giving handouts to everyone. He had an incredibly generous heart. And he did not understand ongoing animosity, so he was involved, of course, in the Indian Wars, and then, then Sitting Bull gets gets a featured role in his Wild West. Now, cynics would say, that's good box office, but actually, the truth is, he thought the Indians had gotten a raw deal, and
Hmm.
he liked Sitting Bull a lot. He said, "I will make you some money. You should join the Wild West." And
Yep.
and I and he also was the first. I think I write Western novels, but I think the key thing about the West is that it really has an element of performance. I think, Western books are important, but I think the Western exists because of Western movies.
Hmm.
And Western movies would have been impossible or unheard of or unimaginable, really, without his Wild West. So, like everything, if you like the West, you owe Buffalo Bill a debt. And he
Hmm.
was he was he was big-hearted in matters small and large. So I'm a big fan of Buffalo Bill Cody.
Well,
So
I'm
there.
excited. Yeah, so there, the anti-Buffalo Bill folks.
Oh, you'll be shocked. How many people you're like, oh,
No,
oh
there
yeah,
aren't anti-Buffalo Bill
yes,
folks.
there are. Yeah. Oh
My
yeah.
my I'll tell you a funny story. I sat down and showed my daughter The Greatest Showman, which of course is about P.T. Barnum,
Yep.
P.T. Barnum and Barnum and Bailey. And my daughter watched this and she was like, you go through it and you see the trapeze and you see the elephants. And of course, my wife went to Tufts, which are jumbos
Ah,
because of Jumbo, the elephant from P.T. Barnum's Jumbo the Elephant. And uh, you know, you watch this, and at the end, my daughter goes, "Daddy, what was that?" And she loves the movie, and she loves all the music, and she loves the whole thing. And I'm like, "What do you mean? What was it? What they were doing in that tent?" And I'm like, "Sweetie, that's a circus."
yeah.
And then she goes, "Can we go to the circus?"
Good luck finding one.
And I'm like, I don't know that they exist.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know what kids run away to join now.
I, I,
Maybe rap groups.
the army. I don't know. I'll tell you a story. So we lived in the Upper West Side for like a bazillion years before we
Yep.
moved to California. And when Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey would come into town, they would close off the Lincoln Tunnel
Hmm.
so they could transport the elephants through, because the elephants couldn't be transported in trucks rather. So they
Yep.
would come through on trucks, on foot rather. So they would
Yep.
leave them off in New Jersey and then lead them off on foot. And they would do this at like, 2 o'clock in the morning. But if you were in the know, you would
Yes.
you would wake up. So, we go to bed, we wake up, we set the alarm, we run down to 34th Street, and we ran with the elephants from the
Yep.
mouth of the bridge all the way to Madison Square Garden. And I've never forgotten that. And I love the circus. I love outdoor entertainment. I just don't,
Yep.
you know, people don't like live entertainment, which I find amazing. They don't like
Yeah.
concerts. They don't like theater. They don't like circuses. I mean, they
I
want to stay
think
home.
I think what happened was COVID reprogrammed everyone's brain. I suppose it's the same reason why everyone wants a customized experience of everything, right?
Hmm.
Um, but that just kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
You know what
No,
I
I mean,
mean?
I grew up. going to movie matinees.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to have seen most of those movies alone. I mean, part of
What to
part of
what?
part of
Yes.
seeing King Kong Escapes is seeing it with all of your friends.
Yes.
There's very little point in King Kong Escapes alone.
Yeah, even then, by the end, like, I'd go see rather hilariously with my best friend, we'd go see the Fast and Furious movies, which
Ah,
are just garbage. I mean, they're hot garbage. And we'd, have drinks and then go to the movies and then just
ah,
laugh it up. And people would take those movies seriously.
oh yeah. I
It
was in
always
college.
shocked me.
All of our friends, all of my friends, we bought. This is a terrible thing to do. And we bought little fifths of whiskey, right?
Yeah.
And we put them in. We'd buy the big Coke,
Yep.
and we went and we watched. Oh God, The Blues Brothers, which has got to be
Uh-huh.
the worst movie ever made. And we take the big cokes and we pour half of it onto the ground, which is why the floor in the theater is always sticky, and we pour the whiskey
Yes.
into it. And we sit there drinking whiskey and watching the Blues Brothers. And those are communal experiences that are important to growing up. It's part of how you make friends. It's part of how
Yes.
you share things. And it's memory making. And the whole idea that people are just sitting at their computer looking at something is kind of sad.
Yeah, I've my wife and I have started going to live theater
Mhm.
and consciously bringing our daughter to live theater.
How old is she?
She's 4, so
Hmm.
she's been to a few shows. Obviously, nothing big.
Like Agamemnon's out of the
Y-
question.
Yeah, yeah. We went to see, we've seen a bunch of stuff. We go to the Kennedy Center. The Kennedy
Uh,
Center is close by. Um,
have you taken her to the Nutcracker?
I haven't taken her to the Nutcracker, but I
Oh,
should take her to the Nutcracker.
4 or 5 is
We
that's prime Nutcracker age.
we took her to she is in dance,
Hmm.
so she's taking tap and ballet because of course. And she is going to be in her own uh uh dance presentation coming up. And we took her to see the Frozen musical, which
Ah, okay.
was about the right speed for her. But we're going to work our way up. And hopefully, I'd like to bring her to see the Rockettes as
For Christmas
well.
time, that'd be
Yes,
unbeatable. Yes.
yes. And and to that extent, we've just made it a point because no one's on their cell phone. And
Yeah.
it's like an event, and you get dressed up and you go to dinner and you treat it seriously,
Yeah.
and you lend the people who are on the stage credit for the performance, and uh and to that extent I've become very enamored with that element of live performance and how valuable that is, and also how expensive it is, but how it's something that I want to see and I want to appreciate and I want to enjoy. And so that's been the case.
Do you remember the
And
first show you saw when you were a kid?
the first show I saw when I was a kid, I think it was probably Annie, but I didn't see it on Broadway. My first Broadway show was Spamalot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. And technically my first Broadway show was Jackie Mason, who I was the only eighth grade kid who was obsessed with Jackie Mason, so I got to go see Jackie.
Ah, okay.
Because I grew up in a Jewish household and my dad was a huge Jackie
Yeah,
Mason
no, we
fan.
saw him in, was it The World According to Me?
Yes,
Yes, we
yes.
saw that. And I used to eat at this place called the Cajun in New York,
Hmm.
which doesn't exist anymore. And he would always be like 2 tables away from me. So I would tell whoever I was with to be quiet so I could hear what Jackie Mason was
Yeah,
saying.
what Jackie Mason is saying. Yeah, I saw him on Broadway, saw him in Boston, and then saw him at the Round Theater in outside of Boston. I want to say it's in Sharon. It's where
Hmm.
they do all the Shakespeare. and he was very funny and hysterically funny, really. And so, but yeah, I've been to Broadway shows. And my wife and I recently went to see Stereophonic, which
Oh,
was
how is that?
spectacular. Spectacular.
Yeah. I was
Um,
going to see Frozen, but then somebody told me it wasn't about margaritas, and I just
well, you could go see the Jimmy Buffett play.
no, I'm in
Yes.
California, so I'm not going to Broadway anytime soon.
Oh, well, no, it's traveling. And then when during the summer, we go to Long Beach Island, and
Hmm.
we do the theater in Long Beach Island, which is the I want to say the Searchlight Theater. No,
Ah, okay.
and where all the kids come in and they make money during the day singing and serving ice cream and doing like ice cream, singing ice cream salesmen. And then in the evening or during the day, they do plays for kids, and they do probably 6 Broadway shows over the whole summer. And it's really great. I mean, live theater, I cannot suggest enough. That's
Yeah, be same here.
Yeah. So anyway, Scott, plug your books. Tell the dads what they should be
So, Dad,
buying.
you will love my latest book, my current book. It's called Flint's Honor.
Yes.
It's right now in a couple of Amazon bestseller lists in the Western categories, and it's selling briskly. Get a copy because Papa needs a pair of boots. And the next book, the immediate book after this, is Flint's Bullet. Flint's Mama, hold your breath because that's not going to happen. But Flint's Bullet is next.
I'm outraged.
I'm
I
out.
wanted Flint's mama.
Yeah, me too. And fortunately, Targets West will be reissued sometime in the next couple of weeks. So I really like Targets West, and in July, look for my Buffalo Bill Cody biography. And I have a backlog of lots of books. I also wrote books under the name Bob Madison, thinking that I wanted to branch out. But I am a Western and thriller writer now. My other books were comedies and young adult novels. But I am now a thriller and Western writer, and I would like to do a comedy Western. So if my publisher is listening, just let me try it once.
It's- this is like when oh um Jimmy Buffett was wanted to do a song with a Steve Goodman. It was a Steve Goodman tune, and he did the song under the name Freddie and the Fish Sticks.
Ah,
So yes, well, Scott, thank you. You
thank
can
you.
find Scott's books, Scott McCrea, DSP publisher, lots of westerns, lots of stuff, and then you can get his other stuff under Bob Madison.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
Everything's available on Amazon.
and his link to his website will be in the
Is
show description.
Oh, all right, then I won't even bother
Oh
saying it.
yeah, there you go. No, I'm not going to make you
It is
www.
it is HTTP semicolon slash slash.
Well, thank you so much,
All right.
Bob. Thank you so much,
If,
Bob
if
Scott.
Bob Scott, if I could just tell your listeners
Yes,
to follow me on X or Instagram, both of them are Scott
yes,
McCrea West. I love talking to people who read my books, and I love talking to people who haven't read my books because I can convince them to do that.
yes. Plus, Scott and I are always in conversation on Twitter through the at DadLitPod
Yeah.
on Twitter. So thank you all. Thank you, Scott, for joining me.
Why have you come apart? No, thank you.
Yes. This has been an episode of the Dadlet Pod. All the best.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit Pod.